Kamala Harris has told us all we need to know about what kind of commander-in-chief she would be. And I don't know about you, but I would not trust her for a moment with the lives of my brothers and sisters in uniform.
Hey everyone. Today I want to talk about a really serious and important topic from recent Tulsi Gabbard interview. Tulsi Gabbard dives into some pretty intense issues that affect not just our country, but the entire world. So let's break it down and explore why this matters. First off, Tulsi Gabbard shares concerns about political leaders, particularly Kamala Harris, and their ability to protect our military and keep us safe. She feels uneasy about the decisions that some leaders are making, especially when it comes to military actions. According to her, this makes us think, how much do we really trust our leaders with such big responsibilities? It's crucial to have leaders who prioritize peace and the safety of our soldiers. Then, there's this big shift happening in politics.
The Democratic Party, at least when I was growing up, was the party of, hold a bake sale, the Pentagon doesn't need more bombers or whatever. And now it's just kill them all, let God sort them out because we're getting rich doing it. Are they comfortable with this? Like, what do they think of this behind closed doors?
This is again, showing kind of the realignment where you have Adam Kinzinger and Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney supporting and endorsing Kamala Harris proudly, people who have been neocons and are neocons not hesitating to say, let's go to war in any and all situations, regardless of the cost and consequence. And then you have people like Bobby Kennedy and myself and others who are standing with Donald Trump, not because we agree on every single thing under the sun, but because we agree on the most important things, which is really about our ability as Americans to live and thrive in a truly free and prosperous society. And we cannot be free or prosperous unless we're at peace.
Tulsi Gabbard points out that the Democratic Party seems to have changed its stance from being anti-war to supporting military actions without much hesitation. This is a stark contrast to the past when there was more focus on peace and diplomacy. It makes you wonder, how did we get here? Why is there so much talk about war instead of discussions about peace? One of the most alarming parts of the interview is the talk about nuclear war. Tulsi Gabbard warns that we are closer to the possibility of nuclear conflict than ever before. Can you imagine living with that fear? The idea of a nuclear war isn't just something from movies. It's a real threat. She emphasizes that if a nuclear weapon were used, it could destroy everything in its path. That's a scary thought, and it's something we should all be concerned about.
I remember when the war in Ukraine broke out in February of 2022, and I just want to say at the outset, there are tons of people I respect and love and am related to who had very different views of that war than mine. I don't judge anyone who reaches different conclusions. But the one thing that I do judge people on is not caring about getting in a nuclear war. I just have too many children, I guess. And you were one of the first people to say, whatever you think of this conflict or how it started or how it might end, we should be concerned because this is the largest nuclear arsenal on the planet, and we could wind up in a nuclear war that would kill everyone in the world. And I remember that you were denounced as like a Nazi for worrying about nuclear war.
Yeah.
And now we're even closer. Does anyone in Washington understand this or care?
They don't care. That's a fact. If they did care, they wouldn't speak so easily about the fact that we are closer to the brink of nuclear war than ever before in our country's history. I was warning about this back in 2019, 2020 when I was running for president, talking about this threat, how if we are continuing to wage what then I called a new Cold War, if we're continuing to increase tensions and heighten tensions with other nuclear-armed countries in the world, the inevitable outcome of that is nuclear war, and we should all be very clear-eyed about what that means. That if a nuclear missile was headed our way, which by the way, all of us in this country are within range of a nuclear missile, what happens? You might get an alert go off on your phone saying, as we did in Hawaii, as you remember back in 2017, we had this missile alert that went off saying, missile inbound to Hawaii, seek shelter immediately, this is not a drill. And so for everyone across Hawaii that morning, there was that thought like, wow, I may only have 15 minutes to live. And just like we're sitting here in this hall here tonight, people may have been sitting on the beach, it was early on a Saturday morning, or making breakfast or whatever was going on. What do you do? Where do you go? There is no shelter. And therefore, then there's the inevitable realities that if there is a nuclear war, it results in annihilation of all living things. And yet so I was talking about this and warning about this when I was running for president every single day, multiple times a day, every single town hall, trying to open people's eyes up and get other candidates for president to talk about this, get the media to talk about this, because no one wanted to do it. I even had a reporter who came up to me who was, they have these reporters who follow the different candidates around, and she came up to me and she's like, Tulsi, you talk about this every single day. Don't you have anything else to talk about? What is there to talk about?
Tulsi Gabbard highlight that. What's even more troubling is how casually some leaders and experts discuss using nuclear weapons. It's almost as if they forget the enormous consequences that come with that kind of decision. According to her, in the past, leaders like Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev understood that nuclear war could never be won and should never even be fought. Their words remind us that we need to take these risks seriously. But it's not all doom and gloom. Tulsi Gabbard shares a message of hope. She reminds us that we, as voters, have the power to influence change. We can choose leaders who prioritize peace and work towards de-escalating tensions rather than increasing them. That's where our voices and votes matter the most. And here's a thought. If you care about these issues, make sure to share this message with your friends and family. Let's raise awareness about the risks of nuclear war and encourage conversations about peace. So, if you found this discussion interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content like this. We need to stay informed and engaged in these important topics that affect our future. Let's work together to promote peace and understanding.
If we are in the midst of a nuclear Armageddon, what else is there to talk about? And so fast forward to now where we are today, unfortunately things have gotten far, far much worse, not better. And you have these so-called security experts and defense experts and pundits on television being so dangerous and careless, talking about nuclear war, and we have these smaller nuclear weapons, and we'll drop one, and we'll send a strong message, and talking about a nuclear bomb as though you can just go lob a nuclear bomb and there will be no consequence. And they're lying to the American people in doing so. It is so incredibly dangerous because that's not real. It's not rooted in reality. Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev said it best in 1985 when they issued that joint statement together, recognizing this risk, saying that a nuclear war cannot be won and should never be fought. And yet we have the neocons, Democrats and Republicans alike, who are eager to push us into this potential of World War III that can only end in a nuclear war.
So, people throw around the word demonic, but if that's not demonic, then what is, kind of? If you have no regard for the lives of your own people, then what won't you do?
And you talked about this. There are a lot of people making a lot of money around continuing to, yes, it's fomenting fear, but continuing to push us closer because, we have to build new weapons and more weapons and bigger weapons and more powerful weapons, as though, we have over 5,000 nuclear weapons. Russia has, I think, over 6,000. It takes one. It takes one. And the nuclear weapons we have today are many, many, many times more powerful than what was used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's the bottom line. And this is both what is so dark about this moment that we're in as a country, but also what should give us hope in this election is that it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. I know you've talked to President Trump. I've talked to President Trump. He has raised it behind closed doors and over again in public, the seriousness of the prospect of nuclear war, and talked about his commitment to walking us back from the brink. So really the choice is ours as voters. And so as you have conversations with your friends who may not know quite what to do, or they're like, I don't know, I don't like the way Donald Trump tweets or what he says, fine. Let's talk about our ability to live. Let's just start there.
So I guess I'm repeating the same point again and again because it shocks me every single day, but the ruthlessness and the recklessness of the people currently in charge doesn't seem to have any boundaries at all. And am struck by the fact that our foreign policy, which most of us ignore, I spent most of my life ignoring foreign policy, does seem to be driving domestic policy, right? So one of the ways that they tried to delegitimize you and threatened actually to criminally charge you was by claiming that you were somehow allied with a foreign government. We just saw indictments this week by the Biden administration meant to cast doubt on criticism of the Biden administration. Oh, it's Russia. Kamala's losing, it's Russia again. I'm worried, I mean, they put a bunch of people I know in prison already, a bunch. I have a friend in prison right now for doing nothing, Steve Bannon. I'm worried that if Kamala Harris wins, lots of people are going to go to prison on the grounds that they are somehow allied with foreign countries. Do you see this happening?
It's all, as you said, it's already happening. And we've seen how both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have no hesitation whatsoever to weaponize our Department of Justice and law enforcement in order to put their political, to punish their political opponents.